Hey man, you feeling better?
Oh yeah, hey, how you doing? I'm sorry, I was trying to get over to Matt real quick.
I got me. What's wrong, please?
When? Which time?
I remember you put down and had to close the door.
Oh, the pollen finally just beat me down so bad. I got like a sinus infection. I got a sinus infection. I was just laid up. I didn't have no energy to get through.
Me either. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I assumed that you know everybody yeah, what's it? I don't want to sit too close to this thing. I tell him anyway. I'm gonna run.
You go, girl.
I know.
All right, I had to drive from Marietta to daughter's physical and they come here. I had to leave her with a friend.
Well, Mr. Love,
Drinking your,
How are you?
y'all know each other, don't you?
we do know each
This
other.
first time we met.
No, I mean.
No. You don't remember it at the GRA convention.
Well, we saw each other from across the room, but like this first time we had a conversation close.
Okay, so
probably wouldn't hate each other.
in other words, at the GRA convention, you walked right past me and didn't say a word, right?
Did I really? It was not intentional at
You
all.
know, y'all
He
do
had
have
me
one
on
thing in common.
camera.
Neither one of y'all translate very well in the text. You don't. That's why the people don't.
If you're a candidate for this debate,
I
please
don't think it sound
come
like that to come out of his mouth.
assume the position. Take your seat.
Jim? I'm I guess y'all already heard that his dad died this evening. So she's been leaving for about weeks and weeks. Am I going to be in the way of the camera? Do I need to move down one? I tried to watch that last night. It kept coming out on me.
Yeah, I pushed it up because I'm too close right now. Like, what
Everybody on that stage, I love that. He was in that room. I had him last week. Other one is Leslie McPherson. She is on city council in Hillary. And I don't know if she does that, but I'm sure that's
They put the cameras out in the way.
and this one is sensitive. I'm thinking I'm on move. I don't need it on camera.
Thanks everyone for coming tonight. I know it's been a hard week. We had 2 debates this week, but I know we're running a little bit late, but we're ready to go. I asked Pastor Thomas Cole to come lead us in prayer and our pledge. Thomas.
All right, let's pray together. Dear Father, we come to you tonight, Lord. We just thank you for the opportunity to come before you and approach your throne once again. Lord, I pray for this debate tonight, God. I pray that everything that will be said and done be pleasing in your sight. Father, I pray for all of our candidates that are running for office, God, for whatever the office might be, that they'll seek wisdom from you, and you grant them that wisdom that they stand in need of to lead this county in the direction that it needs to go. Father, we thank you for the blessings on this county and how we've grown, and Father, we just praise you for that. But above all things, God, we thank you for your Son, Jesus. It's in his name I pray. Amen.
All right, I'm going to do a few introductions and then I'll turn it over to our moderator.
Let's all pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, Thomas did that right. We're very privileged tonight with some of our panelists over here that will be asking questions for our school board. We have on the end down here we have Scott Johnson. Scott is the Senior Vice President of Financial Supermarkets Inc., a financial service consulting firm. He is the former chairman of the 11th District Republican Party and the Cobb County Republican Party. He serves on the State Board of Education and is currently the chairman of the State Board. Next we have Brad Kittle. He serves on the Cartersville Bartow Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee for 6 years as Vice Chairman of Business and Industry, Vice Chairman of Community, and in 2011 was Chairman of the Board. Brad currently serves on the Bartow County Board of Education and recently was selected one of 15 school board members, superintendents, and teachers to go to the White House to talk to President Trump on school security. Leslie McPherson is our next. She serves as a city council person with the Billerica City, and she worked on the Ted Cruz campaign. And any other great, wonderful stuff? That's good. She says, all right, I'm going to introduce you to my moderator, and then he can introduce you to our candidates. Our moderator is Louis Hunter from Cobb County, and Louis is principal owner of Network Georgia, a governmental affairs firm, serves as the Cobb County Board of Commissioners with Bill Byrne, served as Ted Cruz grassroots co-chair for the state of Georgia, been heavily involved in state and local politics for over 20 years. So I give you Mr.
My glasses up Good evening. This is my second one this week. Some of you were here for the first one, and it went very well. We're not going to be super strict on rules. We want everybody to get their thoughts out. If they run a little bit over, we'll give the other folks their chance too. We will start with questions from the panelists. They'll just hand the microphone down. Each one of you will get a minute to respond. If you get called out personally, it's kind of my discretion to whether to keep the ball rolling or whatever. Really good debate on Tuesday. It was friendly, it was informative, and I don't expect anything less tonight. So with that, we'll start with 2-minute openings from each candidate, and then we'll jump right into the questions. Stacey goes first. Ladies first. I apologize.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stacey Falinger. I have been a Paulding County resident since 2003. I've been married for 21 years. I have 2 kids that are 12 and 9. My 12-year-old is a 7th grader at Salmon McClure Middle School, and my 9-year-old is a 4th grader at Fort Hickory Elementary School. So obviously, as a parent, my kids' education is very much a top priority for me. I have a bachelor's degree in political science, and I have an associate degree in legal assistance. I've been a paralegal for 24 years, and in 2013, I left corporate America and started my own virtual paralegal business. Then in 2016, I decided to obtain my health coaching certification, and now I start a new career as a health coach. As for leadership roles, I currently serve as a co-leader for a networking group. It's called Experience Connections. This is a ladies-only networking group. It's a business networking group that meets once a month. Now, I decided to run for school board because I would like to be involved in deciding what policies and procedures affect our children. Our children are our future leaders of our country. I also would like to be a voice for both the teachers and the people of our community and welcome open discussions of issues facing our school system today. I look forward to hearing your questions tonight and providing you with a clear understanding of my perspective.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Dean. I was talking to my son last night. I told him how nervous I was, and he said, "Well, Dad, you talk to Marines all the time." I said, "Yeah, but I walk on the stage and say, 'Good morning, Marines,' and they go, 'Hoorah.' I go up here tonight, and you guys are going to say, 'Who are you?'" Anyway, my name is John Dean. I've lived in the county for about almost 30 years. I've been in our current house for 21 years. I've got my wife and daughter and son-in-law are out in the audience out here and supporting me tonight. I have 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. One daughter is actually a teacher here in Paulding County. I have 10 grandchildren. Not that you can tell it by my hair, but 3 of them have graduated from Paulding County, and 2 are currently in the Paulding County school system. I also have a granddaughter that is on the Paulding County Sheriff's Department. And we've got a long line of teachers in our family, and I feel like I've got a vested interest in Paulding. Is the reason that I decided to run. Everybody says, well, this is not right, that's not right. People don't even vote, much less run for office. So I decided that I would run for office this year. I am retired from the United States Marine Corps. I had 30 years in. I retired as a division sergeant major. I had 1 combat tour, and actually it was done as a reserve, by the way, not on active duty. I retired as a 4th Division Sergeant Major. I also retired from Lockheed Martin, and I have a master's degree in aeronautical science with a specialty in management. I've worked in different areas like flight test on the F-22 and C-130 program. At the end of my career, right before I retired, I was in risk management and program manager. And so I just want to bring some new ideas, some new leadership, and some new approaches to how we manage our schools and our budgets. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Anavitarde, and I'm running for District 6 School Board. My wife and I, we've been married about 11 years. I'm a native of Atlanta. I have 3 young daughters, 2 at Shelton Elementary, and I'll have another one in kindergarten next year. My background, I've graduated from Georgia State University and also Georgia Tech, so you don't have to hold that against me. Except for, yeah, anyway. But having grown up here in Georgia and been here for the last 11 years here in Paulding County, we've seen a lot of the growth, we've seen a lot of the changes. Having been involved here in the community, and it's kind of humbling seeing that this debate's here at Chattanooga Tech, where I serve on the Board of Trustees, wanting to see a better tomorrow, and the students that are going through our school system at the K-12 level having the opportunity to succeed and maybe start their own company, go to college, or make a better life for their family. So I'm here running to basically fight for those families that have not had that chance to take our school system to the next level, being more innovative, providing new leadership, and fighting for our teachers that I think deserve more than somebody that's going to fight for them. So I look forward to the discussion tonight, and look forward to talking to you more and learning what's important to you.
Okay, now is where we get to the good part. We get to the questioning. If you would, kindly hold your applause in between. I know you're going to want to at times because, been there, done that. But that'll help us move the process along. and it's a little less intimidating for the other folks getting ready to speak if they're not following that. So with that, we're going to start with Scott Johnson and let him ask the first question. And thank you very much.
It's working. Okay, thank you. Well, welcome, candidates, and I'm honored to be here with you. We may all be from different counties, not Paulding, and that's a good thing because we don't have a dog in the fight. But I will tell you, I do have a grandson that goes to school in your district, District 6. So this is has some personal relevance to me. I'm going to start. My first question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing Paulding schools today, and how do you think you as a board member could work to address it?
Hey, Scott. I think the biggest challenge facing Paulding County schools right now is, quite frankly, the lack of resources that teachers have and the limited budget that, excuse me, I think our school system has to operate as one thing. We do not have a lot of industry in this county. We're the 13th largest school system in the state of Georgia. I think we spend roughly about, we're the 152nd out of 180 schools in what we spend per pupil compared to other school systems in the state. And it's only getting harder. Teachers are having to do more with less. I know the budgeting process is the same, but at the same time, we're continuing to see greater challenges with the lack of technology and other things in the classroom. And I think secondly, the other important thing on people's minds is school safety. I think we need to have an open, transparent dialogue about what does that mean for each school and how we're going to keep our schools and students and families safe.
Challenge facing, or what I see is one of the biggest challenges, and everybody knows the school safety, and that's one of my big issues being a former Marine, is trying to establish some type of safety program within the schools and trying to get safety process set up for the schools. Not all schools are going to have the same safety plan for every school. It's physically different. High school's going to have a different plan than what elementary school versus the middle school. I have to agree with Jason on this. One of the big things, and I'm going to say it a little different, but growth. I was talking with Nick Shesher the other day, and he said that everybody's comparing Paulding's growth to Cobb County, but we really should be comparing it to Gwinnett County, where they have $1 million houses that are backed up to subdivisions, backed up to cemeteries with strip shopping centers in the middle. And we've got a school up in the 6th district with 1,300 kids in it. And we're expecting 50% growth through our county commissioners, is what they're saying. So I see the red stop sign.
Well, I am not much different from my two other candidates here, but I agree that one of the biggest issues for our school system is school safety. And, you know, as a mom of 2 kids, and 2 girls going to school, every day you have to wonder, is the school safe enough? And, you know, we've had some issues recently in our district, and affected one of my daughters more than the other. And she called one day and was very scared that something was going to happen at school that day. Not their school, but the high school. And she was very much affected. I do have some ideas of how to make everything a little bit safer, or would be cost effective as well. And another issue too is the growth. I would like to see also some programs, some additional programs in the school, STEM programs and things like that other schools do have, and they're very important for our students to have.
Well, I want to congratulate y'all for showing up on the school board. One thing about it, I can say that I'm in my 2nd term, and wherever you go, be the grocery store, somebody's going to ask you questions. And the ones that were afraid to be here, I mean, I admire it. I think you're a leg up on them. I guess the question that I would like to ask is, for the first time in a lot of years, and you might get answers since you're the state school board, and maybe ever, that QBE is going to be fully funded. And one of the things that our school system does it, I looked on websites, I saw Paulding does it, we highlight how many millions of dollars we're not going to get that the state says we're supposed to get to be adequately funded. So my question for y'all is, how would you use that extra money? Because there's so many pressures on the school board now. You know, taxpayers are going to have to flip more of the money because the state hasn't. The teacher retirement increase, we're got what, another 2%, 7% to 9% on us. The health care, which we used, when I started the school board, we didn't pay, and now with our system, we're like around $400 a month per person that we did. So I guess my question is, how would you use the extra dollars that you get for QBE? And just be honest, if you're not sure quite yet, just say, I'm not sure, I'll have to look into it, but if you do know, let us know.
Well, one thing, if we have extra money, I think that we definitely need to pay our teachers very well. That's very important. We need to make sure that Paulding County has the best teachers available, and that they're not wanting to go to another county because they're going to get more money in a different county. So that's one thing I would do.
One of the first things, if QD is going to be truly funded, I think we need to take a step back and look at our current budgets. I've gone through our current budget, and it's $316 million this year, and there's a 28-page PowerPoint review for the Board of Education to approve. We need to look at how we're spending our existing money first. Then we need to take on the additional funds that we get and start allocating them to programs like safety. We need to figure out what safety program we're going to have. Like I said, each school I feel is going to be a different safety program. This is going to be a cost some way. We're going to have to offset it. And I think spending our money wisely and how we go about our spending, we need to get more in touch with our commissioners. They're predicting a 50% growth. And you may not believe this, but Paulding County has grown almost 1,000% since I moved here in 1990. So growth is a big issue in our county. We can ignore it, but it's going to happen. So we need to spend our money more wisely and be more cautious on our budgets.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that was said. I mean, I think we're expecting to see about almost 3.9 million coming back to Paulding County. I think at the outset we have to be mindful that when we say QBE is going to be fully funded, this may be only for 1 year. We may see the legislature, whoever the new governor is, maybe not have the same commitment to fully funding QBE. So I think we need to be cautious about what it is we're going to put money into. I think if there are 3 priorities that need to be looked at, I do think school safety, with the extra money, we need to figure out what is the plan, what can we afford. Are there models that we could possibly test out in some of our different schools across the county? I think we need to make sure that we're paying teachers enough and they have enough resources. They already have enough stress in their life, and what happens in the classroom from a lot of the state mandates that happen. And we need to be sensitive and mindful to their environment, because they're the ones that are on the front lines fighting for our families. And I think third, I think there needs to be a serious discussion to look at whether there's an opportunity to roll the millage rate back. That's not happened, and probably, I can't even think of, probably before I even moved to Paulding County. And I think that needs to at least be talked about, at least transparent conversation about.
Well, I think this is a little bit of a tough question, but I thought it was a good one. Now, you can't hold it against me because I didn't write it. And you just alluded to part of it, but here's the question. With the complaints coming in that the school board did not lower the millage rate again this year, even with property assessments going up, how or where do you see that the school system should cut waste to help taxpayers?
I'll step up to that one. There's 3 ways to solve a budget deficit. You can either increase taxes, reduce spending, or stop spending. We've got to use some common sense. I mean, when you look at the number of teachers we got to the number of supports that we've got, it's almost 200%. There's like 1,800 teachers and 3,500 people on payroll at the school. With my past background in Lockheed, the government mandated that we do risk management and process reviews to look at how you could save money on programs, because, and a lot of people, and I want to emphasize this, a lot of people think that, oh, well, that's coming from the state, or this is coming from the federal government. That money's coming from us. We're all paying our taxes. That's where it comes from. So we have to start spending our money more wisely. It's just the overhead has got to stop. That's how you're going to operate that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of that. I mean, I think there's only about a finite amount of money to go around, I think, to help, you know, in terms of funding the schools. I think, you know, security again, I think in terms of making sure that, you know, teachers are getting some sort of raise, which I think with the QBE increase this year, you know, I think that opportunity exists. I think we need to look at, you know, are there potential other cost savings that have not been discussed in the school system around vendor contracts. You know, we know a lot of the controversy that's been going around in terms of clean, you know, whether the schools are clean and things to that nature. So I feel like, you know, there may be opportunities to, you know, having been worked in business for nearly 15, 20 years, taking more of a business mind, I think, to kind of the budgeting process and looking at other opportunities to cut waste that may be not so apparent, maybe to those on the surface of what's in the budget.
I kind of agree with both people here, what you said tonight. And I do think that we need to just look at the budget and be fiscally responsible in how everything is allocated. I do think that you can stretch a dollar pretty far, but there are some issues that we've actually already discussed tonight that need to be addressed, like the school safety and making sure our teachers are well paid for. So I'd be interested to look at that one further.
Y'all don't worry about agreeing with each other a lot. You know, that's what good. I think good Republicans can do that. I did this for Lieutenant Governor's debate last night, and one of the points they made was you're not seeing much difference in what we all say. So that's okay. Just wanted to reassure you there. One of the ratings that is tracked for schools in the state of Georgia is School Climate. I hope you're familiar with it if you're running for the state board of education. I mean for the county board of education. But what it is it's a 1 to 5 star rating of how connected the students and parents feel connected to their and supported in their school, and feel like that they're supported by their students. And it goes from everything from how friendly the office staff is when a parent walks in, to how engaged the student is, the teacher is with the student, what their take on that is. You got several. It's published by the State Board of Education every year. You got several schools in Paulding, congratulations, with 5 rated. You got a lot with a 3. You got one school with a 1. What leadership can you all provide? Do you think you all can provide, whether that's leadership at the headquarters or leadership at the school level, to foster a climate that's supportive and engaging for children? And I will tell you, because this is the fact, you're as responsible for a school anywhere in Paulding County, according to governance rules, than you are in District 6. You just have to live in District 6 to run for your city. So, there you have it. I'll take your hand.
All right, I'll start with that one. I mean, my response to that, quite simply, is leadership. I think it's leading as a school board member, and quite frankly, not being afraid to push back when things are not being done right by the central office. And I think at the same time, making sure that we have policies and procedures in place that allow principals and teachers, as they engage with the parents at their community schools, they feel like that they can communicate those challenges back to the central office, and there's a give and take relationship. I think that, you know, the leaders in our school system, the staff, the teachers, have done a remarkable job. But, you know, we should not accept that there be a one-star school in this county. Every school in this county should be a 5-star school. And if that takes making very tough, even sometimes maybe controversial decisions to get that school to be a 5-star school, then that's what we should do. Whether you're at North Paulding High School or you're at Union Elementary School, one of the most rural areas of Paulding County, those kids and those teachers and everybody involved deserve to have the exact same education and opportunity at the end of the day. And again, it goes back to me about new leadership, and we need to see new leadership and not the status quo in the school system. I think the county deserves the best, and those schools deserve more than what they're getting now.
I think it's imperative that in our school district that we do not have anyone rated as a 1. And I think a solution to that problem is to make sure that we have open communication with the administrators of the school and let them know that they can come to the board with any concerns that they have. And maybe they're in an area where they don't feel that they're getting a lot of interaction with the parents, and you know, that can be an issue. So I think that is what needs to happen, just a policy of open communication. And that also goes in the leadership as well, but that's what I think would be the best scenario there.
I have to agree with Jason, mentioned that. We need to change the way we look at things and the way we manage our schools and the way we do business. I made a suggestion to some people, and I said, I would like to sit down with the teachers in my district, with the parents in my district, and have open door, just roundtable meetings. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And I keep hearing that the school board only writes policies and procedures. Well, how are these policies and procedures impacting the schools? I want to give direct feedback from the teachers and people on the front lines of what's happening in the schools. And then to hear somebody say, well, you can't do that. I will do that. I'm going to meet with the teachers. I mean, that's the only way that we're going to get this communication back. And it's going to have to start with new leadership. We cannot keep doing the same old thing. I hear that we're graduating 80%. Boy, that sounds good until you realize that 1 in every 5 students do not graduate from high school. So, the way we're doing things is not working, and there's a stop sign.
Well, I just want to say that for your future, there's an inextricable connection between academic performance and how engaged those that have that school climate. So you can't just separate one from the other. You'll never see great academics and poor climate.
Each of y'all mentioned school safety, so I'm going to throw kind of a tough one at you. First, kind of easy. You know, the state of Georgia, you're allowed to do swaps with the board with its stakeholders, can decide what's put to the voters. And actually, if you decide you want to harden your schools, you can actually use that, the voters approve that for capital improvements, cameras, that kind of thing. But the hard question I'm going to ask you, that's kind of on the list of a lot of people, Georgia allows local schools to allow who they choose to carry a firearm on school grounds. What process would you go through in making this decision? Who carries, if anyone?
My opinion on who should carry an actual firearm is only a police officer or someone in the military. I know we usually don't have military at the school unless there would be some kind of something to happen, a worst case scenario. I know there's debate out there about should teachers have guns, and you know, I don't think every teacher would want a gun. That would require them to learn how to use a gun. I imagine most of them wouldn't even know how to use one. So, I mean, that's my answer. Is I just think it should be a police officer or military.
Well, first of all, we're looking at one issue in an overall security plan. We need to go look at our schools and look at and develop a vulnerability plan of where we're weak in the schools. Teachers being armed is only one small segment of that. Security around the perimeter, bulletproof glass. These are all fine options, but we need to develop a plan of what we're going to do. To go out and randomly say which teachers should or should not, I can tell you my daughter would not carry one. Or should. You better not have one. and she's been around firearms all of her life, but she's compassionate. The football coach in Florida should have had a firearm. But we need to develop an overall plan for our security, not just one item. But there again, they should go through the vetting process of the state to carry firearms in the first place, and then they should stop and realize that when you've got two people in a room with weapons, that's two people shooting in a concrete room. So you've got to really look hard at what your plan is.
So Fred, I think in terms of your question of, what process I would go through, I think number one, I think there needs to be a real community conversation about, should teachers carry, administrators carry, or whatnot. That has yet to happen here in Paulding County. I know I've asked for it, many others have asked for just to have a conversation. There's a lot of parents, there's even a lot of teachers in the school system who have said to me while I've been on the campaign trail that we just want to express how we feel and have a conversation about it. So I think number one, we need to listen to our citizens and hear what they want for each school. Because I think overall we do need to have a broad plan for the school system. I think we need to work with the sheriff and look at what are the overall security plans of those schools. What I support is I don't have a problem with, as long as we have a program in place that's voluntary, if administrators want to carry, but they go through a very rigorous state, federal, local process of training, background checks, and mental health tests to make sure that they can handle the situation that maybe they would be put in. But I think at the beginning of this, we have to have a dialogue and be transparent and honest. And as a school board member, I would not be afraid to have that conversation, because right now I feel like everybody wants to tap dance around the issue, but nobody wants to talk about the issue, which is just going to kick the can down the road versus us, I think, taking this thing head on.
Now, I'm from the county just south of you, but this question relates to something we're also going to have to handle in Carroll County because of where the growth is. And here's your question. With the growth in our county, especially in the north part of the county, what are your thoughts on the possibility of redistricting and how it could be achieved?
I knew I was going to have to go first sooner or later. Right now, there is a team that's going to be coming in and looking at our growth and possibly redistricting here in the county. It's not going to happen this year, but unless we come up with some pretty dramatic plans, it is going to happen some way, somehow. It's every time I hear somebody say, well, you can't do that, that just tells me there's an opportunity sitting on the other side of that. There may be other options to redistricting. We need to challenge the school, the state, about how we build our schools. Maybe we can enlarge some schools within the same area. We've got to be creative with this. This is not just a by the books. It's a with the growth that we've got in the north, and I'm in the south. I've got the smallest schools in the whole county. But we have to address what's going on with growth. When you've got as much that's coming into the county and as many students, if you look at, we're going to have 45,000 students if we match what our Board of Commissioners says as far as students in the county. It's coming, and we better plan it, just like security has got to be there, so we've got to do it.
So I'm going to start off answering this question like the last question. Transparency and communication once again. We've been told by the Board of Education that there won't be redistricting in the next school year. But let's get real. The schools are filling up fast. I know our elementary school, you know, as Mr. Dean said, I mean, we have 1,300 kids. I mean, as big as high school. And we do have to be creative in terms of what are we doing with facilities. There is no money to build new schools. And we're not the only school system in the state that's coming to you all and asking the state legislature for money. But at the same time, I think we need to be open and honest with parents in the school system that this is on the horizon. They have hired a consultant. This is going to happen at some point. So why wait until it happens to talk about it when we could be talking about it now if families can understand what is that impact. The foundation belief that I have is that we should be trying to build community schools and try and keep communities of interest together. I mean, that should be the foundation of when we have a redistricting conversation, I feel like, in terms of trying to keep communities together. Because let's be honest, this county is already divided enough politically, geographically, and whatever else, you know, somebody wants to come up with. So that's how I think.
With the growth of Paulding County, it's inevitable that they're going to have to redistrict at some point. And I agree that this has to be something that's discussed and planned out well in advance. I know, like at Shelton University, or Shelton University, it's like a university, isn't it? At Shelton Elementary, they had trailers there because there's so many students, and they finally added on. And that's an option to just add on to the schools. I can't imagine that North Paulding at some point will have to add on, because to me it seems like a much smaller school, at least the one that I went to in another state. But I think that's going to be one of the answers, because there isn't money in the budget right now to really add the schools. That could be a possibility if there was money there, but I think that they're going to have to look at just adding on some more to some of the schools in the area, so that they're not sitting on trailers during the school day.
And I just want to, add one more thing to that, but I think we all agree, and the audience agree. I think when we talk about new schools, we need to talk about infrastructure. Because if we can't get from point A to point B, those that take kids from Cedar Crest to North Paulding High School that travel Harmony, you know what I'm talking about. It takes like 3 hours to get there in the morning, and I'm sure there's similar instances of that all across the county. We have to fix the roads, we have to fix the infrastructure. At the exact same time, we're talking about building new schools or expanding schools. And again, like Stacy said, I think it all has to be looked at together.
I can say this without a microphone. I actually took some notes down. Traffic and congestion is one of the big issues that needs to be addressed when we do look at schools. Same, go up on the north side up there, it is unbelievable with the traffic. And being from the south, I've kind of lived in the south part of the county, but when I went up and sat in Jason's open roundtable meeting, I was totally surprised at the issue of overcrowding in the schools up there. And I apologize to Jason and the rest of the people on the north side for not paying attention, but it's going to be a big problem. And there's already traffic numbers, and we're expecting more growth. So we're going to have to work with our county commissioners a lot better than what we have to help coordinate this, and our state legislators.
One thing I would like to see, because in addition to, yes, there is a traffic problem with getting to the schools, especially back there off Harmony Road and Church Road. There's only one way in to all three schools. And I'm not quite sure why that was like that when they were built years back. And I wish that there could be a way to have another way in, because it does actually become a safety concern. We had Snowmageddon a few years ago, and everyone was trapped on Harmony Road, Church Road, things like that. So that's what I would like to see happen as well.
Next question. So, I'll fly on this one. So, one thing that in my business, in my company, that we do on a regular basis, is look and see what people are doing right. And it's looking for best practices in not just looking internally, not just looking at what's being done in Paulding County or what has been done in Paulding County, but look at what has been done in surrounding counties and around the state and maybe around the country. It's R&D, not research and development, or rip off and duplicate. Tell me about it. Would you be willing to engage in looking for the best ideas, the best practices, and applying those to Paulding schools, and give me some thoughts on how you do that?
So, my thoughts on that, I think, is a couple of things. I think one goes back to innovation. With very little money in our school budget, I think we need to be innovative as possible. But at the same time, I don't think we can not be afraid to dream, go big, and try and get the best things for our schools. One example is, just around STEM education, something as simple as that. And coming up with a long-term plan, it's not something that can happen overnight because everything costs money. But how do we move forward in a way to where we can actually have a STEM program in every single school in Paulding County? It may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, but we need to start somewhere. I think making sure that the kids that are graduating from our school system, and when they go to Chattahoochee Tech, or they go to the university, or they start their own business, they're in a place to be competitive with the global economy, and I think be in a place to where they will succeed. Because let's get real again, the world is only going to get harder. The challenges are only going to get harder. The economy is only going to become more difficult over time with kind of its ebb and flows. But I think we need to prepare our kids to be innovative and think big and dream big. And I think going after STEM programs and things of that nature would be a game changer here in the county.
My thought is we need to also look at what other school systems do and kind of adopt some good policies that they have as well. And I agree with STEM. That's very important for schools. I think it's also important to look at programs. There's I Teach program with KSU, and we can incorporate that more in the high schools and really get the kids ready to go either into college, and of course not every child's going to go into college, but to make sure they have all of the necessary skills that they need to make it in the real world today.
Ironically, I sat and did some research on some data on these numbers. Iowa is number 4 in the nation, and they spend approximately $500 more per student than we do. Florida is number 7, and they spend less than we do. The numbers, though, do not correlate back to cost of what you spend per student directly, but there are some fantastic ideas out there. I heard the other day with the state superintendent, we've got state co-op programs now. Not everybody wants to go to college. Maybe you want to work at Hardy Chevrolet and make $20 an hour half a day, and then I for example, worked at Lockheed, mechanics on the fly, and I make $30 an hour. That's a lot more than I made as an engineer when I started to work. My daughter teaches science at one of the schools and has a STEM program, and it is amazing. But we need to help fund these. To me, it is almost insane that we have a $316 million budget and teachers have to beg for paper. It's just not right. I mean, we're here for kids, not for the school board. So.
We're going to take the audience questions now. 2 of them I'm going to pull. One had to do with redistricting, which I believe they've answered, and one with HB 60, which was arming teachers. So nothing personal, but we're going to pull those because we're running short on time, and they've pretty much been answered at this point. So, lock the vote.
Okay, I'm going to roll this into the question that my next one, because it's almost identical. What civic, business, or advocate groups do you have connections with? What about their appeals to you what is the specific issue on which you disagree with them? And then adding the question here, which kind of rolls into there, will you actively engage stakeholders in their interests instead of, is that saying burning your vote?
Yes.
Yes, instead of burning your vote. That's a lot y'all got to answer. Maybe why don't we just go to this from the audience? Will you actively engage in stakeholders and their interests instead of burning your vote? And those can be tough ones sometimes. I've been the only one on the board sometimes, but deal with that stuff. So will you actively engage stakeholders?
I have kind of already addressed that. I want to go to the schools, each one of the schools, sit down with the teachers and the parents. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What can we do to help the teachers in the schools? I even made a suggestion that because of the teachers having to get their paper, I was going to volunteer the $200 or whatever it is we make a month on the school board to a school, and they said I couldn't do it. And I will tell you that if I'm elected, I will be holding roundtable meetings with the teachers and the parents, and I will be donating what I make back to the schools. We're focusing too much on the process and not what the end item is. When you've got 1 out of every 5 students that's not passed, not graduated from high school in 5 years, that's a disgrace. We start out in our math and science tests. We're above average when we're in the elementary school. We're 10 points below the state average in math here in the county. We're 6 points below in English. We're 31st in the nation and about, I believe it's 30-something in the world. So how can our kids get a job?
Yeah, I mean, we have to engage stakeholders at the end of the day. I mean, one of the things we haven't talked about tonight is, I think, engaging other community organizations like our churches with what we're doing in the school systems. And I think kind of, those organizations that kind of build the fabric of what this county is and who this county and what we're all about. I think at the end of the day, I mean, one of the cool partnerships I've been involved with being here at the technical college was with the school system and seeing the two organizations work together and bring a college and career academy to Paulding County on the New Hope campus that's going to be built over the next year or so. And I think engaging stakeholders and engaging parents and teachers at the same time, that's where innovation is created, because as a school board member, we're not going to know everything. The citizens and others around this county have to share ideas, and I think that's where we'll get the best ideas and see our county grow for the betterment of our students.
We definitely have to listen to our stakeholders, and I like the roundtable idea, getting everyone together, getting teachers, getting parents together. I would like to, being elected, for people to email me and say, what exactly is the issue and a concern. Take that back to the board. Have a roundtable. I think that's the only way to have a system to work, is if you have good open communication with everyone involved.
I failed to mention earlier, my husband was a lifelong educator and school administrator after that. I spent a number of years both in South Florida and then in Carroll County as a substitute teacher. Tonight I'm a substitute panelist. Quick question. Are y'all's races partisan in your county? Yes. Republican, Democrat on the school board? See, that's different from our county, and I picked that up with the questions. Okay, well, here's your question. And even when I was still substituting, this was something that's come up in our county as well. The Board of Education is currently outsourcing the after-school program, ASP, with Learning Bridge and custodial services with Aramark. Both might have saved money, but quality has diminished. Is the money saved worth the lack of quality? If so, where does the outsourcing end?
With the ASP programs and having a vendor do that, if people aren't happy with the quality that they're getting with that, I think that needs to be addressed and possibly change it. I know when my kids were in ASP, when they first were in kindergarten and all that, at that time, it was just the teachers. It wasn't a vendor. And it was fine. You know, it was volunteer, of course, but I think that might actually be a way to save some money as well if they're not paying the vendor to do that, and if they have some teacher volunteers that would want to do the after-school program.
I personally think that the ASP program ought to be run by the teachers and the schools themselves locally. It might be an opportunity to let the teachers get a little overtime because the pay rates or pay rate that they're at. As far as the janitors, I can tell you that from what I've seen and heard from teachers that I've talked with, the standards are not there, and it's just like anything else that you have. If you're having your car worked on and they don't do it right, you get somebody else. I personally would like to see the janitorial service come back as part of the county employees. There would be a cost, and there would have to be a major discussion on how you're going to pay for it. There may be benefits cut or whatever to work it back in the budget, but that's employing Paulding County people. That's not outsourcing it. Mr. Whitaker was my high school janitor, and I can tell you the lunchroom staff. These people get to know the kids in the school, so, oops, sorry. I wasn't looking at her in the stop sign.
So I'm going to separate the two things kind of quickly. So I think in terms of after school, and my kids have participated or even engaged in the current after school program, I do agree with Mr. Dean. I do think that it should be run by the teachers, or if they're going to outsource it out and contract with somebody, why don't they contract with an organization like the YMCA or someone that actually has an intention towards the kids, and there's all kinds of innovative things I think that could be done working with such an organization. I think secondly, as it relates to the cleanliness of the schools and Aramark and the contract and a lot of the debates that have been happening over the last year or so, I would have to question, and there needs to be probably a harder look in terms of the procurement process of how that contract is awarded. I know with our own business and how we do contracts and procurements that quality should be number one. I don't care if you're paying an organization $10 billion. If they're not servicing the schools and they're servicing the teachers and principals and parents, then you have to question the legitimacy of that contract. Are we penalizing them if they're not meeting the contract requirements? I mean, we are talking about tax money. And I think at the same time, if they're not meeting that requirement, then I'm sure there are other companies in Georgia and across the country that do the same work that Aramark does. And why do we keep going back to the same vendor? If we can't meet those specific business steps as an organization, then I think we have to look at what Mr. Dean said in terms of do we have to bring it back in-house and then address the budget issues there. But just to, again, kick the can down the road just because we want to save money and let problems persist in the schools where my kids go. I think at times, I don't want to speak for the principal, but I think, they should be more empowered at the local level.
We good to keep going? We got one more? Yeah, we'll make sure we got one more. Let's do it. Okay. How will fund, so the question here is, how will funding be appropriate for special needs children from K through 5? Those some things are in your control, some are sort of not. I realize that. Some of them are mandated by federal and state guidelines. But I just had your thoughts on addressing the needs of special needs students. What's the time? We're out of time. We still want to get your last thing.
Special needs is a very special concern to me. One of my grandsons is an autistic child. I have a learning disability, so we need to address it. It's not that the kids, because you have a learning disability, you're not smart. You just learn different. So we have to address those. I will say this, and it's probably very controversial. There are certain special needs students that need special schools. our public schools are not going to compare a special needs person with severe needs to get into the public and to maintain themselves in the public. So I think we should address what we can do in the special needs area seriously and with an open mind.
I think the special needs program is very important for any school. I'm glad that at Fort Hickory they have a good program, and then they have a lot of Down syndrome children that go there, and they have a good program for that. And I would like to kind of look at the budget and see what's there to make sure that that program is going well and that it's funded the way it should be funded. But that's...
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with both what other candidates said. I mean, growing up, my brother, he was in special needs classes when we were in high school. And one of the challenges I know for my parents growing up, and I actually had a parent yesterday, literally yesterday morning, who's having challenges with her son right now, is I think it's just when teachers potentially identify a problem with a child, or not a problem, but I think an opportunity to help a child, and then are the resources and everything there to kind of wrap around that family to make the situation better. And a lot of it comes down to the resources, but I think at the same time, I think it's, what more can we do in the budget? Is it really a priority? And how can we make it more of a priority? And again, it comes back to me, communication and I think transparency and having more of those conversations, especially maybe with stakeholders and others in the community to kind of get that feedback of what the school system could and should be doing more of.
Let's give them a hand. Not a bad answer in a bunch, and three good people willing to put themselves out for a massive salary of $200 a month. We rounded it up, okay. It's a huge personal sacrifice to run for office. Whoever wins in every seat that's available, support these folks. Speak your mind, but take care of them because it's a big deal. It's tough. Scott can tell you how much time is involved in serving the public, and these folks are stepping out there. So we're going to do the closing statements now, 1 minute each. If you run over, I'm going to push you off the stage, and because we've got another one ready to go after this. So Jason, we'll start with you.
Well, first off, I just want to thank my fellow candidates here tonight for making the time to actually be here. And want to thank the Paulding County Republican Party for hosting us and also Chattahoochee Tech. I'm just going to leave you with this, that at the end of the day, I'm fighting for our families and I'm fighting for a better Paulding County. There are a lot of great things that probably go untold every single day in this county with families and teachers and what goes on in the school system. But at the end of the day, it's not enough. And I think we deserve more as a community. I will tell you as a Republican, that's an unafraid Republican, that we every single day that goes by, I will fight for you. I will make sure that your tax dollars are being spent wisely. But number one, I will communicate with you and you will hear from me and have a dialogue just like if we were married. We may not agree all the time, but at the same time, you're going to know what's going on. So I just want to thank you and ask for your vote. Early voting April 30th, May 22nd, and come visit me if you have questions. Look forward to coming out and meeting you if I haven't already.
If elected, I would listen to and reflect the concerns of the community and work in collaboration with my fellow school board members. And I'm committed to continued improvements of the school system and to taking our educational system to an even higher level. And it would be an honor for me to serve as a school board member. And I, again, like he asked for your vote, I asked for your vote on May 22nd. And yes, if you want to early vote, it is April the 30th that that starts. And just thank you for your time you've given me this evening.
While I'm going around the community talking to people, I hear experience. Well, none of us have experience as far as being on the school board, but we all have experience in managing businesses and companies, and which is a new way of doing things. We're going to have to take that and go with it. For example, school security. We're going to have to look at the schools, individual schools, develop individual plans, come up with those. One thing that we should include in that, though, is we need to get our child advocacy group involved. If you've got a child that's being abused at home, he's going to act out in school, one way or the other. Get our psychologist group going in the schools. Bring them in and part of this. Make it part of your security plan of how you're preventing something from happening instead of reacting to it. I would like everybody to have a special moment for Kathy Helm. She lost her father tonight, so she's actually at the middle of the campaign, so it's kind of personal for me.
Okay, that concludes the first debate. We'll hear the other one.
I'm sorry. One thing I wanted to say, John is running for District 5, because I know the way it's up here, you might not can tell because we don't have everyone. He is running against Trudy Sire and Nicole Whalen. Nicole and Trudy didn't see to come tonight, so we want to give John a hand for coming. Stacy and Jason are running for District 6, and they're also running against Dan Nolan, who didn't show tonight, so we want to give them a hand for coming.
All right, we're going to take a 5 to 7 minute break. If you're a candidate for the next debate, go ahead and make your way up here. Take your bathrooms, water breaks, and we'll see you in just a minute. About 5 minutes.
How are you? Good, how are you? Very good. Good to see you. We haven't figured out what she did. How are you? Yeah, you all right? You all right? I got several programs tonight. There's a lot. Baseball, lacrosse. Probably just not turned over. I'm still I love to sing. I sing in the shower alone and then I college too.
If you're a candidate for the next debate, please come on up. We'll get started just in a couple minutes.
I mean, are we asking questions for? And I was just curious. I guess I'll find out. I think I found out that it's partisan in this county.
That's
We'll be starting in 1 minute. 1 minute.
All right, if you'll take your seats, we'll get started.
All right, guys, we're ready to start here, and I'm going to, since you know who our panelists are and our moderator, I'm going to introduce our candidates for Post 4, starting with Jim Ashworth. Second is Dan Bowles, and finally is Tony Crow. Brian Stover is also running, but decided he did not want to be here. So, we're going to start with opening statements. Mr. Bowles is going to go first, and here we go.
We're going to change this up just a little bit. We're going to let them come to the podium to do their opening statement.
Well, good evening, hey y'all. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules to hear where we as candidates all stand on the issues. I want to say thanks especially to the party and Chattahoochee Tech for hosting us. I'm tough on leaders. I have high standards. I don't apologize for that, but I greatly appreciate the chance to stand up here in front of you as a Republican candidate for Post 4 and share what I believe is a positive vision for Paulding County's future. My wife Amanda and I, along with our 3 children, moved here, and we're proud to call Paulding County our home. We moved here about 5 years ago. Our oldest, Drew, is 13. He's in 7th grade at McClure. Our 2 youngest, Charlie is 10 in 4th grade at Shelton Elementary, and Lindsay is in 2nd grade. She's 8, also at Shelton Elementary. We're 100% a very typical, very busy Post 4 family, and like many who call Post 4 home, we chose to move here because we saw a growing community of like-minded families. We saw great homes at great prices. We saw low property taxes. We saw a lot of excitement around economic development and jobs growth in the area, particularly in the business and industrial community. But since we've moved here, it seems like nothing's really changed. And so, like many Post 4 residents, I began to ask some questions. I began to ask, why is this happening? Why is nothing changes but my taxes keep going up? We've seen increasing property values with little, if any, rollback. We've seen increasing property taxes. We've seen increasing school taxes. I know that's a Board of Education thing, not a Board of Commissioners thing, but when you top it off with the Board of Commissioner tax increase, it's a triple whammy, and it hurt. Meanwhile, the commercial and industrial property values remain flat, which means we're not really growing that area. Our sales tax revenue remains flat, which means we're not really growing in that area as well. That means it's all on the back of homeowners. 100% of the burden is pretty much on the backs of homeowners. And it seems to be getting worse. In 2014, the Department of Labor estimated that 74% of our population left county to go work somewhere else. 2016, it was 80. 2018, to date, it's 86%. So I decided I wanted to do something about it after a few neighbors came to me and said, would you please run for office? I began researching Paulding County politics a few years ago to kind of get more involved and understand what's going on. And if can I have 1 more minute? I'll do the same bit. What I've discovered in the process has been sobering. It's been enlightening to say the least, but I've discovered that in Paulding County, it's brother suing brother. It's Hatfield versus the McCoys. It's North versus South and old versus new. And I think that it's time that we put an end to that. I think it's time that we bury that hatchet. And instead of focusing on the past, I think we need to start focusing on a future where we together move Paulding County forward. I'm a pro-business conservative. I believe in common sense leadership. I believe in good stewardship, fiscal restraint, and a prosperous vision for our county. With your support and with your vote, I look forward to working with my Post 1, 2, and 3 colleagues, the chairman, our county's department heads, agencies, business owners, educational partners, as well as the state of Georgia to get things done and move Paulding forward. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Jim Ashworth, and I'm here tonight with my wife of 44 years, Janet. And I've lived in this community for 46 years, and I have 2 children, Stephanie Ashworth Brazil and Spencer Ashworth. They graduated from Paulding County High School. I have 2 grandchildren, go to the schools up at the North Paulding School campus, Kennedy and McLean Ashworth. Family were something that I love so much and respect a strong family. And I'm a Baptist deacon, have been so for 29 years. Now my personal, not personal, but my work experience is through 46 years of design, engineering, and construction business. I will serve as a president at one firm and executive vice president at 2 other firms. I'm currently chair of the Education Foundation here in the school, in the county, and I'm past chairman of the Paulding County Chamber of Commerce. Through the last 30 years or so, I've also had leadership positions in county organizations and civic groups, and in all these roles, I've made a difference in those organizations and made them successful, and that's what I want to bring to the Board of Commissioners. Is that work ethic. So everyone asks me, why are you running, why are you getting involved in politics? And you know, it's the same old thing, you hear everybody griping and complaining, but then nobody goes out and votes. So I'm the kind of guy that I'm going to jump in knee deep, roll my sleeves up, and I'm going to take action and get things done. That's just the way it's been my whole life. And I want this community to grow and be successful. The airport has really consumed our current board and has not left them much time to really work on new ordinances and strategic plans and policies to really help Paulding grow. We have a comprehensive plan that's mandated, and it was finished in 2016, and not the first initiative that's in that plan that put together a strategic plan. And that's what I want to do, is I want to get those plans pulled together, and let's get this county moving forward. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tony Crow. I'm Post 4 Commissioner at this time, and I'll tell you a little about myself. I've called Paulding home my whole life. My daughter, who's here with me tonight, she's called Paulding home her whole life here. My wife will soon be 49 years of marriage. Our marriage has been here in Paulding County. Our schools, like the children went to school here. We have 4 grandchildren. We love them very much. As I look around the crowd tonight, I see a lot of lifelong Paulding people. And then I see a lot of people that have come here and shared our county with us and helped our county grow in a lot of ways. And for that, I'm truly grateful. We've heard a couple things here tonight where there's some negatives said about Paulding County and about our board. There's a lot of good things about our board. And there's a lot of good things, even better things about our county. My wife and myself can remember when we wanted a hamburger place to come to Paulding County, there wasn't one. And then Jack's came. That was the first hamburger place here other than Vaughn's, and but it was the first chain. And then we wanted a McDonald's. We've got a McDonald's. We've got 4 or 5 of them now. The county has grown, and it's grown for the better. As people come here, the county will continue to grow. I'm not going to get too much in the weeds with economic development and the lack thereof. I believe there's going to be some questions along those lines. I just wanted to introduce myself. I came out of high school. I was in Vietnam the first time. It was August of '65. I'm not a stranger to being shot at, so y'all just go ahead and do what you got to do. I wound up there 2 more times, a total of 27 months combat pay. I come back to this county, married single from Hiram. That's when the school was 1st through 12th there at Hiram. And that's been a long time ago. But I loved my county when I was away. I I loved it when I come back. I seen a lot of guys cry and shed tears over the missing their wife, missing their brothers or sisters, their girlfriend. But the only thing I really ever missed was Paulding County. I missed it and look forward to coming back. I had no intentions at that time, didn't even think about politics. The first time I voted, I was 18, I was in the Gulf of Tonkin, I voted with absentee ballot, and I voted for Nixon. My dad had a fit about it. He was a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat until he got ready to die, and he changed. And I'll tell you maybe about that later. I always said, if you get saved, you'll be a Republican. But anyhow, I'm Tony Crow, and my motto is, it's about people and not politics. I believe I made promises, and I've kept every one of them. I haven't broken a promise to the people, nor will I. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go with panelist questions to begin with.
Well, gentlemen, good to be with you. So, in the previous debate, someone pointed out that most, you all, Paulding's a veteran community that needs to attract industry, and I can understand that if you know about, and you all do, about tax base, hard to support that on the back to homeowners. So I'm going to ask you, what would be your role in the future in creating a climate to encourage business, industry, and bring jobs to Paulding County?
Thank you, Scott. When I went into office, the first school I went to was ACG school at the University of Georgia. There was 159 counties represented there. Every day we sat with a different group, and we went around the table. And the question was asked, what do you want to do when you take office? None of us had been sworn in at that time. And every day, the same answer. I want economic development and create jobs. Every day I heard this. And we changed tables every day. About the third day into this, I thought, where did this come from? During Obama's run for presidency, the economy was in the tank. And he said, I want to create jobs and economic development. We all grabbed hold of that and run on the bank with it. My question as I was sitting at the table the third day was, all right, what do you, I don't know if you're a school teacher, I don't know what you do for a living, but would somebody at this table tell me what your plan is for economic development, for creating jobs? I've run a business since 1973. I started that business simply to provide a living for my family, to feed them. But in doing so, I did a good job, and I've always said if you do a good job, money will follow. If you're doing your job for money, you'll never make it. But if you do it to do a good job, you're going to make money. And my company grew. I hired people. Some of them sent their kids to school on my money. They paid for the homes on my money, on their money they earned with me. She said, stop. But nevertheless, infrastructure is what Paulding County is lacking, and I have had several meetings with people about working on infrastructure.
Thanks for the question. I think the real issue when it comes to economic development and getting the tax burden off of the back of the homeowner is there's things that businesses look for when they look at a county as a possible option for where they're going to locate their business. They look to see if there's roofs. In other words, are there people there? They look to see if there's a good education system in place. They look to see if there's green space and recreation for their employees to enjoy. They look to see if the infrastructure is in place. And one of the most important questions they ask is, can we trust the local government? I think we need to get back to establishing a pro-business attitude that businesses know they can trust our local government and make it open for business again. Once we do that, then the next step becomes marketing the resources and the assets that we have here in Paulding County, which are quite a few, and doing our best to put our economic development team and our IBA in a position to succeed rather than fail. Thanks.
Well, that's true. true. Infrastructure is one of our main concerns in attracting businesses here, and we need to work on that issue. And the basic thing there we need is pipes in the ground. We have the reservoir for our water, and we have sewer, but we need to work on getting pipes in the ground and get establishing our infrastructure. From there, we need to get together with our commissioners and the local community and business leaders and put together an economic development plan that really works. We have enough infrastructure for data centers, retail, office buildings, and those type of facilities. So we can go out and court those and get those folks in here while it gives us time to get our infrastructure in better shape.
If you would, hold your applause. That way we don't have to get here all night, because I'm not getting paid to be here. So.
They're not getting paid. What one part of county government would receive more attention if you were elected?
I think the DOT department is getting roads up. We have our 92 program. Finally, after 30 years, we finally got a 92 highway program started. But it's only going to go to Jimmy Lee Smith. It's not going to go on through the county. It's going to serve Cedar Crest out to US 41 in Cobb County. So the whole rest of the county is still going to be open space there for 92. If we work with DOT, we need to get a long-range plan. We need to work with the school district for future schools and areas so we can know where our needs are and put a long-range plan together. But I think the number one department would be the DOT to get that up and moving.
It's an interesting question. As a marketer by trade and a community builder for a little over a decade, I very much believe in making data-driven decisions. And I don't have all the data really to evaluate to give you an educated answer to that. I also feel like it's somewhat disingenuous to speculate one way or the other where I would spend my time in one specific area of county government. I don't feel like that's a fair thing to speculate on without that data. I do know that water and sewer, pipes in, pipes out, is absolutely one of the challenges we as a county are facing. The roads and DOT thing, I think we'll sort through that in time. I don't think it's as bad as it seems. There are definitely areas where it's rough, but I think we can overcome that pretty easily. Our law enforcement and first responders, I know that we have a tremendous shortfall there in pay and retirement. I'd like to see something happen there. But at the end of the day, I think really what we need to do is go above and beyond to be pro-business and open for business in this county. And that part of that means simplifying the process and letting business owners, when they come here or when they choose to start a business, know exactly what they can expect from start to finish, so that they don't run into issues in the very last minute of the final inspection, like some of the other businesses in Post 4 have run into in the past few years.
I agree with a lot of what's been said here. The question was asked, if I'm not mistaken, is where would we focus our time and effort? Is that correct? Like I said, when I went into office, my slogan was, it's about people and not politics. At my first town hall meeting, now when you go in, you're green, and you have to figure this stuff out. I discovered that we have a church, one of the oldest churches in the county, that meets every Sunday, or when they have their meetings. They have no water. I couldn't believe that in 2016 or 17 that we had that kind of a problem. So I started working on that. There was no money put in place to extend water lines in the county at all. It took me about a year to get $500,000 a year set aside to extend water lines. We have a road out in our post that had no water. People had $300,000 homes, could not take a shower. They went out of the county to wash their clothes. I've got two roads as we sit talking. One of them has water on it. They're waiting for the bacteria test to come back so they can put it to the houses. There's one thing that you cannot do without in your homes, and that's water. The rest of it you can. That's where my focus has been and where it will be, is on the people of this county.
Good evening, gentlemen. I can empathize with you coming from Villa Rica with the challenges with water and sewer. My question for you this evening is, why are you running for commission? And I know some of y'all have to address that a little bit, so if you want to add to it, this is the time to do it. If you feel like you've spent enough time on that, the second part of the question is, and what qualifies you to run as a Republican? And I would just refine that to the sense of, what are those Republican principles that you bring to the table that you would apply to the job?
I can answer it either way, first and last or whatever.
It's up to you.
What qualified me for being a post commissioner? Like I said, when I went in, I was green. I had to learn. And when it come time to seek re-election, I had to evaluate myself. I had to evaluate what we had started and what we would finish. When I went into office, I made a promise that I would move the water reservoir along. 1 year and a little better after I was in office, we got the permit for the water reservoir. There's a lot of people who take credit for that. I'm not trying to take credit for myself. There's some of them in this audience that can certainly take credit for our water reservoir and getting it in place. I wanted to see, we had a E911 center that was stalemated because of the location it was at the time. There was a lawsuit involved. I took it upon myself to move that center to where it needed to be, which was the first choice of where it was supposed to have been from the beginning. And it's now a state-of-the-art building, state-of-the-art employees. It's just so these things need to be continued. And as I was talking about before, the water in the county is a major deal to me. As far as being a Republican, I'm pro-gun, anti-abortion. I'm an extreme conservative to some degrees. Some people might say, well, you're just too conservative. I don't think in today's world you can have too much conservatism. I believe that we're morally bankrupt sometimes, and we need to get back and focus on what's right, which the Republican Party does.
It's a two-part question, so I'll take it in two separate parts. First, what qualifies me as a Republican to run for office? Well, first and foremost, I'm a taxpayer that lives in Paulding County, and I've been an active voter since I moved here a little over 5 years ago. I think, if I remember correct, that's all that requires to be qualified. But I would add to that I've been a lifelong Republican. Ever since I've been registered to vote, I've been registered with the Republican Party. Proud of that. I'm an independent thinker. I think that's pretty well known in this room. But I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm a huge advocate for our Second Amendment rights, our First Amendment rights, really all of our Constitution and all of our Bill of Rights. And I very much believe that we fund the government, so we run the government. I think if you look at the campaign disclosures that were submitted recently, you'll quickly find that when it comes to fiscal conservancy, I'm probably the most fiscal conservative in the race. I'm proud of that. I'll stand on that until I go to the grave. What do I want to do and why am I running for this office? I want to make Paulding County a place where Georgia chooses to live, learn, work, and play. I think we have a lot of assets in this county that make Paulding County greater than some of our neighboring counties and other counties throughout the state of Georgia. We've got a lot of green space that's wonderful. We've got a lot of great schools. There's some work that needs to be done there. We talked about that earlier tonight. I'm proud to support and help our Board of Education do that. But I think we've got some work to do when it comes to the business and industrial community and economic development. And that's what I want to do. That's why I'm running.
Well, as a Republican for 30 years now, I think when the Democrats were in power, I was a Republican back years ago, but I'm a conservative and conservative family values type person. So, why am I running? Well, what can I bring, I guess, to this community? I bring leadership. I bring pro-business attitude. Back when I was president of the chamber, where was pro-business was really brought in to help with our establishment of our economic development unit here in the county and work with that. And that's one thing that I really want to push is economic development for the county to get the taxpayers to pay less taxes on business here.
Okay. Any of us know that, that whether you live in Westcombe like I do or Paulding like you all, that there's been explosive growth in Paulding County. Good thing, hopefully. But with that explosive growth, in the north, especially the northeastern part of the county, there's, what I understand, been a moratorium on building permits. Is that a good thing? Was it needed? Why was it needed? Or was it not needed? And why would you try to change that?
Well, we've put a moratorium. I think it's been a month now, 120 days, or while we consider some type of a plan. I don't know that the county has really worked on a plan. They just postpone the inevitable and want to eventually work on it. Well, that's one of the things that I really want to push is get a plan put together. We have developers and builders that they want to develop, and we need the infrastructure for them. We need sewer pipe in the ground. So what I want to see implemented is an impact fee on all the sewer connections and water connections so that we can get pipes in the ground. Our sewer system is adequate and or has the ability to expand for new development. I'm in favor for extending that development, but only when we get infrastructure to match the construction.
My understanding is the moratorium that was put in place initially started off as a 90-day moratorium. And we got to the end of that 90 days, and this is specifically regarding PRDs, if I understand it correctly, planned residential developments. Neighborhoods like Seven Hills, Bentwater, The Frog, any neighborhood that is a planned residential development with amenities and sidewalks and that sort of stuff falls under that category of PRD. There's a lot of history and background that goes in behind that, and it has a lot to do with years and years and years ago, a blanket R2 zoning that was put in place, and it's time to take a serious look at that and decide what to do with that. R2 is not adequate anymore. But once we got to the end of that 90-day moratorium, we still didn't have a plan, no action. We kicked the can down the road for another 120 days. So all in total, 7 months, we've told developers, you can't build. My fear in those moratoriums is if we continue to do that, we're going to end up running the developers out of the county, and we're going to be back in the boat of 2008 where we have empty lots all over the place and we can't sell them. And I think it's time to deal with that. Let's update our zoning. Let's look at what other counties around us have done. Gwinnett's a great example. Fulton's a great example. North Fulton specifically. Even Fayette County around Peachtree City is a great example. I think we can learn from them. And I think we can take some best practices and put them in place.
After the people in North Paulding started notifying me that they would like to see a moratorium placed on the builders until we could get the stipulations to where they need to be and not pull down the values of the homes that are already existing, that they would pull them down, and I seen the need. So as I looked at it, I thought, let's do a moratorium. Let's give ourselves a time. Let's give our planning and zoning time to put stipulations in place, to do some rezoning if we have to. Builders that have come to this county and left this county have left millionaires. And in the process, they've left us sometimes with a little less than what we wanted, what we really needed in the county. That you can continue building. Nobody believe me, building has not slowed down, nor will it slow down. This is simply to bring the builders up to par. Most of the builders that are building in this county, they don't live in this county. They don't pay taxes in this county. Of course, they buy and do business here, and we welcome that. But at the same time, it's my job to take care of the people that exist, that are here. And once again, I'm going to reiterate, to me, it's not anything more except it's about people and not politics.
We all know that it takes money to run government. We need to be frugal, etc. The county will assess properties, put a tax on there to run the government, but also they also take about 2% of the school board side because they're managing that as well. But in this day of computers and things like that, you would think since the county's already doing that, that maybe more money could go to the school system. Would y'all support, and why or why not, maybe taking that down to 1% instead of the current 2% to help the schools?
This year, when it came budget time and tax time, you've heard a lot of people talk about the increase in taxes. I voted no to the tax increase. The school board was the first to raise the millage or keep the millage to where the taxes would go up. Then there are appraisals of our homes, so you had 2 tax increases there. And I had signed a pledge when I went into office that I would not vote to raise the taxes, and I've kept that promise also. But anything that we can do to help our school system, I'll support it. I have grandchildren in school here now. Of course, my children went to school here, so yes, I would.
If I understand the question correctly, we're talking about reducing the 2% commitment.
So the local school system can have more money, because when you're talking about the amount of dollars that's being collected, 2% is a lot of money.
It is a lot. What I know about our school system is we're one of the largest school systems in the state of Georgia. I want to say 13th or 14th in the state. And when you look at our budget comparatively across the state, we're towards the bottom. So our Board of Education has a tremendous uphill battle to do more with a lot less than many other school systems throughout the state. I think it's important for the Board of Commissioners to support the school system, but at the same time, as a fiscal conservative, I have to ask the tough question of why is it that we have one of the higher millage rates when it comes to education, and we're doing more with less, but it doesn't seem to be impacting the school system in a positive way. And what is it that we as a commission need to do to strengthen that Board of Education and support that education and give them the authority they need to make decisions they need? I think, I understand that it's 2 completely separate boards, but I don't think that we need to continue to operate in silos. I think that there needs to be greater dialogue, and I think it'd be a helpful thing for the commission to sit down with key folks from each school, key folks from headquarters for the Paulding County school system, and a few stakeholders to ask the question, what is it that needs to be fixed? And what is it that we need to do as a commission, as a county, to use your tax dollars to better support the school system? I wouldn't immediately go and say that I'll promise to cut that to 1% without knowing more information. But if there's a way to do it, absolutely.
Being involved with the Education Foundation, I deal with the school district a lot, and I know there are shortfalls, but the county has shortfalls as well. It's a tough question, and I think, as you said, the board needs to work together, the school district board and the commission board, for planning purposes. But as far as fiscal responsibility, we need money now for infrastructure, and I'm not willing to sit here today and say I would give up that 1% to the school district.
Okay, now this is something recent that has come upon your county. With the passage of House Bill 930, the transportation bill, and Paulding being part of the 13 counties, how do you feel Paulding should move forward?
Well, I know it's mandatory, and we have a vote on what type of system we use. But I think there has to be transparency between the board and selling the splosh tax to the citizens, because if it doesn't pass, then it's mandatory. We got to come up with funds from somewhere, and so we would have to maybe look at a sales tax, or we'd have to come up with a bond, 30-year bond issue to help fund some things. But it's a tough thing to look at. It's going to take a lot of involvement between the Board of Commissioners and the citizens of this county.
It's no secret that Paulding County is growing, and it's growing rapidly. There's a list floating around right now that lists Paulding County as one of the top 100 growing communities in the United States. We're the 8th largest population in Georgia, and I keep hearing this word mandatory get thrown around with this bill, and I don't understand why that word's being part of this conversation. I don't understand really how it's relevant to the Board of Commissioners at this point. It will be in the future, but it's not right now. This is a conversation that's happening at the state level with the Georgia legislators, and it involves bringing 13 Metro Atlanta communities together as a commission. And the only thing that's really, I think, as far as I'm understanding, that's required is Paulding County has a seat on that commission or that authority, whatever they end up deciding it to be. This will be something that the voters, as taxpayers, get to decide. This is not something that the Board of Commissioners gets to decide. This is something that the voters get to decide on. It'll be on a ballot at some point. It's an opt-in. It's not a mandatory thing. MARTA's not coming in our back door tomorrow. It's an opt-in. If we choose to opt in, and the voters will decide that, great. If we choose not to opt in and the voters decide that, great. I'll back that.
I understand it also at this time, it's not mandatory at this moment. It costs $1 million to $125 million to move 1 mile of that rail. It will be decided by the voters when it comes time. I'll probably be dead and gone before this takes place. I want you to know that. If we today said, okay, let's do a 1% sales tax in order to fund this, it would take 30 years to move it. At this time, what we're looking at, the closest thing that would come to us would be a bus system in Douglas County, maybe Austell. But we've concerned ourselves too quick about this, and what operates a lot of your constituents' thoughts and all this fear. But don't worry about this one. Like I said, this one will be decided by you when it gets time, and as a commissioner, we'll be the one that put it on the referendum when it gets time, because like I said, I'll be off the board by then. I'll probably go home to glory, so this is something that today we should not worry about, but we have people on that board that's going to look out for us, and when it comes time for this to come about, I'm sure we'll have commissioners on board that will be looking out for the best of the people.
So are there audience questions? Or yes, there are. If you've got one more. Okay.
Same question you read on last.
Okay, this question's from the audience. What symbolizes Paulding to you? And I'm sorry, I can't read your writing. I see landmark, events, etc. Maybe it's word, landmark, event, etc. What symbolizes Paulding to you?
From my understanding, what symbolizes Paulding to me?
Yeah, I think that's it. You can go with that and be close enough.
As I told you earlier, when I was overseas, there was a particular piece of property that I hunted, fished, and the land here itself has something to be said about it. Mr. Bowles mentioned earlier about our green space. To me, Paulding has something to offer just in the matter of green space. We're just outside Atlanta. We have a place here where they can come out here and enjoy the Silver Comet Trail, but there's a lot of things that's symbol for the symbol of Paulding, but to me it's I think patriotism. John Paulding, I'm sorry.
John Paulding, by the way, was the vice president of my political hero, James K. Polk. Get in, get it done, and get out. I think really what comes to mind when I think of what symbolizes Paulding County to me, I'm a big music buff. I love music, and there's 2 country songs that come to mind. The Dixie Chick song, Wide Open Spaces, is one of them. And the other song, These Are My People, is the other one. But also, it's home. And if I close my eyes at night and I think of home, that's where I'm at.
Well, since I came to Paulding in 1971, there was a rural community there, and it's still rural in certain areas. And that's one thing I like about this community is if you want to go to the big cities, our way, you can go do what you want to. But it's a rural community, and I want to see it stay somewhat a rural, small town atmosphere. And you can do that through smart growth and develop areas that along certain highway corridors, 92, 61, and keep the rural area like it is. And that's one of the biggest things I like. And that's why I continue to live here all these years.
Right before I ask this question, just know that we are a family who likes to come out and ride on the Silver Comet and try to leave some of our tax dollars at the QT and the gas station and another restaurant now and then. And that goes right into this question from the audience. How much of your family shopping for groceries and clothing does your family do in Paulding County where it adds tax income to our county?
Okay, I think 99.95% of all of our expenditures in the county, I believe in shopping local. That was one thing we pushed in the chamber, was to shop local. Our small businesses need the income, and so that's what I've always done and will continue to do. Even in my campaign, I've spent all my dollars here in this county. I've not spent one dime out of this county on any election materials.
That was a challenging one for me because I live in the Cedar Crest corridor, and the reality is you can turn left and be at Publix in 2 minutes, or you can turn right and be at Publix in 7-8 minutes. So it becomes a proximity thing. It becomes a convenience thing. That said, I'm glad to be drinking Kroger water tonight because my wife is a pharmacist for Kroger, and because of that, we shop at Kroger. So we actually drive even farther to the crossroads of Kroger and do the majority of our shopping there. Now, she does work at the Marsville Kroger in Ackworth in Cobb County, so occasionally she picks up some milk or some bread or some beer or whatever, and you know, it's a shame that that's going to Cobb County instead of Paulding. But I think if you ask business owners throughout Paulding County, they will tell you that Dan's not a man of many words when it comes to lip service and supporting local. He actually does it. That's why I've got so many business owners in Post 4 that are behind my campaign.
I actually met you on Silver Comet Trail the first time I met you in Rockmore. You and your brother. I look different without my slick breeches, don't I? But nevertheless, I'll say we just about spend 100% of our dollars, not only in the county, but within New Hope in that area. My wife and I go, of course, to Hiram to do our shopping, but I don't remember the last time, other than passing through Cobb or Fulton or whatever county, to stop and maybe to get a bite to eat. But I make sure that my money stays in the county, and I'm like Jim, I bought my signs in the county, and I trade with them. I could have got them a little cheaper, but I didn't. I chose to do business here in the county. This morning, in fact, I was at Rodney's eating breakfast, and Rodney thanked me for doing business with him, and I eat breakfast there, either there at the Waffle House on a regular basis or at Jones Restaurant. You'll see me in those places pretty often. So I know I'm looking forward to seeing my opponents here in those places also.
So is there one more question or two? What do we have time?
I think let's take the airport question.
Okay. So we knew that was
there.
coming.
It is.
That's the bomb.
So, gentlemen,
last question.
I'm very close to being a 2 million miler on Delta, which means I spend a lot of time between West Cobb and South Fulton. But I love Paulding County. We love to come over here, Silver Comet Trail. It's got great amenities, and so I think there are good people on both sides of this issue. But I want to know where you are. Should Paulding County, your airport, be open to commercial passenger service or not?
No. It's no secret where I stand on this issue, and there's no secret why I stand where I stand. I know the history of the airport. I know it from 1975 to 1999. I told you earlier I was a veteran, and I've been part of carrying some bodies out for people to give their lives for our vote. I will not disrespect it. When you vote, and you did it 2 times in this county, when you vote and you put me in this seat, there's no gray area here. It's black and white for me. The airport, I feel like was conceived. The commercialization of it was conceived in a way that it shouldn't have been. It's been taken and run away with, and it has consumed our county. It's divided the people of the county that I love, that I know the history of, that I've lived here and lived through it. When I was elected, that was part of my platform, that I would stand against commercialization of that airport, and I will continue to do so. If you don't believe that, look around. There's a big old billboard just down the road with my name on it. But nevertheless, I don't make no mistakes about where I stand on commercialization until it's brought out front, done properly, presented to the people, and they buy it. I will not support it.
It's no secret where I stand on this one either. I am not opposed whatsoever to commercialization, but nothing is off the table either. I don't agree that things were done in secret. I also don't agree that things were necessarily done the way I would have done them. I wasn't on the commission at the time when they were done. I see at least one of our former chairmen in the audience tonight. This is the polarizing issue of our county right now. And we've got to find a way to move forward together. I think there's a way to do that. I think it starts with dropping the lawsuit. I think it starts with moving and working hard to rescind Resolution 1501, which breached the contract and put that bond on our back in the first place. I think it takes knowing that our commitment to that airport was $1 million over a 10-year period of time to begin with, and now we've spent over $2.5 million on lawsuits and bond payments. And I think it takes sitting down with whoever it takes, Propeller, the FAA, Delta, whoever else needs to be sitting at that table, but to sit down and have a serious conversation about what do we do as leaders to come together and fix this so that it's profitable for Paulding County. If it's general aviation and it's profitable, great. If it's commercial and it's profitable, great. One way or another, we need to make it profitable. Right now, it's a money pit. And I'm going to quote Post 2 Commissioner Todd Pownall. Something he said Tuesday night really sounded out to me, and I actually, believe it or not, Todd, I agreed with him. Todd said, I do not like anybody else trying to decide what goes on inside our county. Now, he was talking about House Bill 930, and I'm talking about the airport, apples and oranges, but they're both fruit. I think the greatest defense we have against the potential of Atlanta building a commercial airport on that 10,000 acres is to have our own teeny tiny little airport. And if it's commercial, it'll definitely stop it. If it's general aviation and it's healthy and it's profitable, there are other things we can do because the right of first refusal on that property is coming up soon. But we need to get ahead of that because right now that's the real issue. And I think the airport conversation is more of a distraction than anything else. But I'm willing to stand in the middle of that and take the heat to do what's right for Paulding County as a leader. I'm willing to get Propeller to come to the table and compromise with us. I think that we need to come to the table and compromise some as well. But, I am not opposed to commercialization. Thank you.
Well, I'm strictly against commercial aviation coming to Paulding. I believe general aviation, as it originally was planned, to have business pods developed around it and use it as an economic tool to bring businesses into the county. And so I'm completely against the commercialization there.
Sometimes when we talk about things we really don't know about, I want you to know I can't go into detail. I have signed an agreement to secrecy as other commissioners. We have been to mitigation. We're willing to go back to mitigation. We're too far away from what they're wanting, what we're willing to give. But there's nobody on the board today that opposes the commercialization of that airport. We're 100% behind it. I'm sorry, general aviation, no commercial. I apologize for saying that. That was a slip of the tongue, by the way. But we have gone to mitigation. We are willing to work. And before, in fact, when we were willing to go, they wanted to back out, but because we were going to go and they were not going to go, they said, we better go because these people are trying to do something to work, even though we've been paying this. These guys are not willing to work with us. When we get there, it was absolutely ridiculous, the difference in what they wanted. And the final say-so there is they want this election cycle to go by. They're hoping to change the board to have their way. Everything based now, right now, we can't do it until after May the 22nd. My mind is not going to change between now and May the 22nd. Somebody else's mind, but mine's not. So it's not that we're not trying to work with them. It's simply they will not be reasonable with us, and let's move this thing forward.
You know, we spent a lot of money on attorneys and lawyers' fees at the airport, and our current bond, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere around $1.6 million left that Propeller is not paying. We're spending millions of dollars on attorney's fees, and what I would like to do is withdraw the 139 and send Mr. Propeller back to New Jersey. I think we can get these lawsuits put behind us and get this county moving forward. General aviation is the way to go, and that's what I stand for.
Well, we saved the best for last, didn't we? Good stuff. Let's give him a hand. Good answers. You may agree or disagree, but these guys are up here to put themselves out there. Their families are involved in this because you all serve. Whoever you love the most is going to be right there with you. So we're going to have closing statements, 1 minute each, from the table, because from a camera standpoint, it's better that way. So I think we drew beforehand, and who was the lucky or unlucky number one? Tony?
No, I was number 3, but I'll go first. Yeah, okay, that's first. Okay. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you so much to the Republican Party. They have went over and above to provide this for us here at Chattanooga State. Thank Chattanooga State for permitting us to be here. Nancy Hollished works hard on this, and she takes this stuff out here. I will say this, it takes a lot of courage to walk up here not knowing what you're walking into sometimes. And I want to say kudos to these two guys here for having the courage to come and sit and listen and answer questions. There's a little plaque on my dentist wall that says, "We cater to cowards." And what I read when I read that sign is, you know, if you come here and you're afraid, you're not a coward, you're courageous. And I appreciate these two men for coming, taking part. I appreciate them throwing their hat in the arena. Hope to see you May the 22nd, start voting April the 30th. And I look forward to serving this county another term.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Republican Party for putting on the event. I'd like to thank the panel for sharing their time to come out tonight, as well as Laura. I really appreciate you for doing that. And as you've heard tonight, there are a lot of issues facing the county, and we've all offered up some suggestions for resolving them. But I'd like to put my resume and leadership skill out in front on the table here and say that we need a proactive, pro-business commissioner willing to roll their sleeves up and go to work for this county and get us moving forward again. When I'm elected, you will see unity, progress, and results from the BOC, and you'll see positive, smart growth in our county.
I want to invite everybody here to visit my website, electdanbowles.com. You can learn a lot more about my campaign than you probably learned here tonight. I'm going to put some documents up on my website. I've got a flash drive. I've been accused many times of not knowing the facts, but I do. I know the facts. I've gone to the courthouses. I've gotten the documents. I've read through them ad nauseum. It'll put you to sleep, but it's important information that you need to know if you're going to run for office. I believe that we as a county, we can work together to become the place where Georgia chooses to live, learn, work, and play. This can be done. We can balance growth and green space together. We can attract good paying, suitable jobs for high school, vocational school, and college graduates, as well as skilled trades. Together, we can eliminate outside interests from meddling, manipulating, controlling our government. Together, we can build bridges between the educational community and the business and industrial community here in Paulding County together to develop our workforce and create job-ready programs. We can leave the unsustainable bedroom community reputation in the past together. We can leave our reputation as the county that's suing itself in the past together. There's a lot that we can do if we just do it together. I'm a pro-business conservative. I've told you what I believe in. I've told you who I am. I'm asking for your vote. One of the other things I want to address tonight is I've been challenged in a lot of ways about where I stand on Paulding County versus Post 4. If I'm elected to serve the taxpayers, the constituents of Post 4. I'll work with Post 1, 2, and 3 colleagues to do what's right and good for Paulding County. But I'm there to serve Post 4 and nobody else. Not the City of Atlanta, not Delta, not Roy Sparks, nobody else. So that's where I stand on that. Thank you.
Outside interests, outside things. The reference here is Delta. Can I tell y'all this from my heart? My family knows me. I've had my computers taken. I've had my phones taken. They've looked me upside down. I've had my statements from my cell phone. I had to go get them for them. There's no connection here to Delta. I have never talked to Delta. The only thing I've ever did for Delta is fly on their airline. That's been a long time ago. I haven't flew in several years. There's always an implication here that Delta is behind everything, an outside interest. That's not so. When you are, if you ever get the privilege of sitting in this seat, you're going to find out there's a whole lot of things that you don't know. But I promise you, this one thing, I will represent you. I understand the demographics of Post 4, from Mount Olivet, all the way to Cedar Creek. And there's a difference from here to here, but they're all the same thing when it comes time to say something. They're your constituents, they're the people who put you there, and you need to honor that. And it's been a great honor, and I mean that. It's an humbling experience when you're elected to office. But my job has been and always will be to represent the people of Paulding County.
Kudos. I think we're on the same agreement there. I'm my own man. I'll stand up for myself, and I don't let any special interest or anybody influence me unless they have a better mousetrap than I do. And of course, I'll be glad to look at that and maybe do that. But I look for you to vote for me. We want to move this county forward. We want to get more businesses here. And so that's all I got to say is go out and vote on early vote on the 30th of the month and May 22nd is general primary election.
Thank you all for being here. I'm glad everyone was able to make it. These debates, they are a labor of love because that's what the Republican Party does. Our job is to present our candidates. And the best way we can present our candidates is to put them on a debate stage. That's the only way we can do it equally. I've taken a lot of heat this week on a lot of things, but I will tell you one thing. I don't sit quietly when you attack my party. I won't sit quietly. You can attack me, but you cannot attack my party. These are good people. These are strong Republicans that actually go door to door. I have walked, and I know these guys have walked in the rain and the heat and in the cold to get their people elected. We go to conventions, we pay our money, we go to meetings. And I mean, we all vote Republican, and voting Republican, I'm glad you are. But to say to my grassroots people that they don't have a voice or they're trying to select somebody, that is not true. But we do everything we can. We told everyone, there were 5 people there most of the time this week qualifying. So anyway, that's enough of that. But I just want to thank these people. I mean, Scott works all the time like everybody else. He flies away. I just want to thank Scott so much for coming out tonight and asking questions. on every board in Bartow County, so he's always gone. He's got, what, six kids? Six kids. He said, don't give me 7. He's got 6 kids. And I do really like, you know, I want to thank Leslie. She came in at the last minute to do this. So I want to thank her for coming in. Just want to thank the panel so much. Finally, but not least, is my new hero, Louis Hunter. This guy has been here for 2 nights. He works, he has a business, and he has done, and I think he's done a great job as moderator. I thought y'all. Y'all go out and vote, go work for your candidates. That's what it's all about. So have a good night and God bless.